know, and we do encourage questions. The more questions just makes for a better forum here, which is what this is called. So really encourage that. Also, in respect for your time and your family, we do try to keep these forums within 90 minutes. If we get out earlier, great. But if we're hitting that 90-minute mark, that 7:30 mark, and we're still going, feels like we're going strong, please feel free to excuse yourself. Don't feel like you have to be on or that you're being rude or anything like that. We try to keep these forums within 90 minutes or less. Sometimes we get out within an hour, so who knows? It just depends on how many questions and some of the things that we're covering. And lastly, this knowledge forum is being recorded and will be dispersed to everyone within the next couple of days. So with that said, I do want to jump into today's presentation, which piggybacks on, pretty much our new mantra. This is our 25th anniversary. March was. So in entering our next 25 years, our new mantra is to be the exception. And really what this means is getting our financial houses in order, also re-educating ourselves on the basis of establishing healthy soil and growing healthy food. And it really means re-educating ourselves on using our land and our money to generate assets to build wealth for our families, not only for ourselves, but really to teach and pass on to the next generation who are waiting for us to step up and provide that for them. So under that mindset, I want to start things off with a quick poll, and then we'll introduce our special guest. So this poll says, choose the category that best fits you. I have no real gardening experience. I have garden, we got 100%. So how many we got in here, Uche? Oh, we only got one so far. All right. I know more of y'all out there. All right, we're gonna give it maybe 10 more seconds and then we'll end the poll.
We have 14 attendees, so I expect everyone to respond.
Yeah, we're up to 18 per 14. You're absolutely right.
It wouldn't let me vote, man. It said I wasn't allowed to.
Yeah, you're the resident expertise, man. So I ain't gonna let you get in on this. All right, Uche, it's your call when you want to end it.
All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right. So I'm going to share the results. All right. So we have 0% who have no real gardening experience. So we do have some gardeners in here, which is a good thing. We got 40% who have garden, but very little experience at it. We've got another 40% who have gardened for years, but never really took any class or certification for it. And then we have 20% who are very experienced gardeners, but always looking to learn more. So good stuff there. We'll go ahead and hopefully I took that off the screen. But what we want to do now is introduce our special guest, and that is Justin Duncan. And Justin he's from NCAT, and we are just really blessed to have him share with us tonight. He's what I like to call Texas famous. And when I say that, it just means anytime his name comes up anywhere around these parts that folks, especially our folks, really know who he is. And well sought out teacher, not only in Texas, but all around the South. He travels all over the place. So really blessed to have him here with us today to share some of his knowledge with us. He is, again, with the National Center for Appropriate Technologies. He's a sustainable agriculture specialist. He has a BS in agronomy, excuse me. I always say that word bad, but from Prairie View A&M. And he's also got his master's in plant breeding from Texas A&M. So his work really just focuses on organic farming and natural farming practices in the humid South, particularly in Texas. And he is currently working on several projects within South Texas and also here in Central Texas. So happy to have you with us, Justin, and we're going to give you the floor. It's all yours.
All right, so Wade, we had kind of talked about this presentation. Well, not really presentation. You talked about this session being more like a question and answer type thing where we can just talk about what problems are going on in folks' gardens and all that right now. I know for me personally, I'm having issues with spider mites, and it's because I wasn't getting any rain at first, and then the spider mites broke out in a little spot in my elderberry planting, and then they rapidly spread. And I didn't really pay any attention to it because I was like, they're just spider mites, they'll go away eventually. And yeah, they didn't, because they were in a spot where they were kind of sheltered. And so that sheltered spot it gave the spider mites a really great opportunity to proliferate and wreak some havoc. So I don't know. So I know some of y'all are on my Facebook, like Miss Chisa Brigham and Kimberly Speed. So y'all have seen me post that. Excuse me. You see me post that. Dear crops. As long as you're doing fine, that's all right. But once y'all start suffering and all that, I'm just gonna take y'all out and plant something more appropriate. And that's definitely the case with the elderberries. They were not happy in that spot. They were not happy at that stage of development, and the spider mites really were. So I went and cut all that stuff out, and I didn't use it for cuttings. I didn't use it for anything else. I just got rid of them because um, first of all, that line of elderberries, and you mentioned that I'm a plant breeder, I'm looking for a specific group of traits in my elderberries I'm selecting for. And yeah, that spider mite susceptibility is not a trait that I want to send to people, because I send elderberries all around the country. So that particular selection of elderberry is now destroyed, and I'm moving on because the other ones are not as susceptible, and all that. So that's what I'm dealing with over here. If y'all any questions y'all want to have, we can talk about. I know from Facebook, people are dealing with a lot of different insect and pest issues, mainly with caterpillars. And I really hate caterpillars. I hate lepidopterans in general. I hate moths, butterflies, what my dad used to call candlesticks, all that stuff. I don't like them. Okay, I crush everyone I see. I don't care. Some of the butterflies I might give a little bit of a reprieve to, but for the most part, I'm killing that stuff and spreading BT everywhere if I can. So yeah, that's one pest that a lot of people are having problems with. The grasshoppers are starting to come in, and grasshoppers, they're kind of easy to get rid of. If you can get a hold of some good neem oil, you can get rid of grasshoppers. They don't like that stuff. They'll starve to death rather than eat anything sprayed with neem. But neem is one of those things, it's got to be fresh. You can't have neem that's been sitting on the store shelf for 6 years, and then you buy it and think that you're going to get any sort of results off of it, because it's denatured. It's no good anymore. So So be aware that, these things have shelf lives and all that sort of stuff. Now, I could go through a whole farmscaping presentation and talk about insects if y'all want, but I would want to I do want to hear from folks and see what y'all want to talk about.
Yeah, we got quite a few questions that are starting to line up here. Uche or Uriah, did you want to hit those?
Oh, I'm looking now. I see Sandra Solomon asks, what is a good way to keep deer away from the crops? My answer to that is a high-powered rifle. Um, and I've got a story relating to that. I was visiting a farm in New Mexico, and it was at a pueblo, at a Native American reservation. And we're walking through this farm, and it's beautiful. Everything's beautiful. And I'm walking through the crops, and they let us pick some raspberries. And if you've never had raspberries from New Mexico up in the mountains up north of Santa Fe, then you've never truly had a raspberry. And at least that's how I felt. I felt that was my first time ever experiencing raspberry. So anyway, we get to the other side of the farm where their orchard was, and all their apple trees were shredded. Their apple trees were toe up, their branches were broken, all the apples were gone. It was just a mess. And I asked them what happened. And they were like, oh, the elk came down from the mountains and ate all the apples. And they were saying that, the apples were just ready to harvest. They were going to harvest them this week. And they the elk came and got them. So I asked them, that's gotta suck. I know y'all are mad. And they were like, no, our freezers are full of elk meat. And that brought an awareness to me, that there's a way to deal with these things. So now if a squirrel messes with me, that squirrel goes in the pot because I fed that squirrel. That's like livestock. That's like loose roaming free livestock. They're running around, tearing up stuff, getting in my stuff, eating my things that I put my hard work and effort into. So yeah, I can go out there with my pellet rifle and I pop that squirrel and skin him and do what I need to do, marinate him for 24 hours and then fry him up and stew him down. So the best way about them deer, if you can, put them in a pot. If you can't, people use people use carnivore urine, like fox urine or coyote urine or big cat urine or whatever. I've heard of people going to the zoo and getting big cat droppings from the zoo and using that to deter your herbivores like that. So I mean, where there's a will, there's a way. All
Hey,
right.
Justin,
Huh?
there's one question here. I was gonna mention or ask you like about do-it-yourself pesticides and but I see this one question here I think is really good. This is from Chisa Brigham, and she said, we have had an infestation of snails that devoured our seedlings. We are on our second round of seeds. So like what's some do-it-yourself remedies or pesticides that you can share with us?
Okay, so with the snails, I'm bigger on environmental condition manipulation than pesticides. Now, I'll use BT, and that's specifically for caterpillars because they're messing with some. Well, I'm growing some experimental crops, and they happen to be cucurbits, and so I want to get ahead of the squash vine borers. So I don't want my experiment messed up. So I use BT on the squash vine borers. Before they hatch, before they get on my stuff or anything. All right, so um with the snails and Chisa, can she unmute? Can y'all allow her to unmute?
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and do that. And Uche, just a note as well. It looks like we are the chat is somehow is needs to be disabled.
All right, so Chisa, if you can unmute, I want to know when you say seedlings, are these seedling transplants or are these direct seeded plants that the snails are eating?
Yes, good evening. How y'all doing? These are direct seeds.
Oh, okay.
Direct
That's what I figured. All right. So with the direct seed, what crops are they?
squash, different types of squash.
Oh, okay, okay. Now, yes, squash is a crop that needs to be direct seeded. Okay. Um, so with the snails, since you can't really transplant squash, or you shouldn't
Mm-hmm.
transplant squash, because if you grow squash as transplants, it a lot of times that squash root grows so fast that it fills up the little pot, and that induces flowering very, very early. And so it's best to direct seed squash. So with the snails, first thing is you've got to get rid of anywhere the snails can hide. Okay. Um,
Oh.
some people use copper because for some reason snails don't like copper. So you can strip some copper wire and put it around the squash as like a little barrier. Uh, you can also use a thing called sluggo, and sluggo is a bait. And the sluggo itself is organic, but there's another sluggo bait that's called sluggo plus, and sluggo plus is the same snail bait, but it's got an additional toxin in it that is really great for what people call roly-polies, the little
Yeah.
isopods, the little pill bugs. Yeah, so Sluggo Plus bait will eliminate not only the snails and slugs, but it'll get rid of the roly-polies. And people are always talking about how the roly-polies are beneficial and they collect heavy metals and all this other stuff. But yes, they also eat seedlings and they also eat cuttings and they also just eat delicate stuff like your strawberries and all that. So I don't like them. They're not my friends in the garden, and all that. So copper is good if you can get some, and then the sluggo baits, and then eliminate anywhere they can hide. Someone asked for pictures of spider mites. I do have a picture in one of my presentations. Hold on, let me see if I can find that.
Hey Justin, you mentioned
Yeah.
cucurbits. Could you elaborate what cucurbits are for our audience?
Cucurbits are the melons, your squash, your cucumbers, anything in that family. That's the cucurbitaceae. Um, and that's it's just that group of genus, like your loofah, gourds, pumpkins, all those things are cucurbits.
Did you mention melons also?
Yeah, I said melons earlier. All right, and then somebody asked about neem oil. It's neem, Neem, November Echo Echo Mike. Um, let's see. I was told human urine would work to keep deer away if spread around the perimeter. Yeah, you can spread human urine. If you want to go outside and pee, that's okay too. Uh, but like with me, I don't have good luck um um deterring varmints like raccoons and possums and skunks and stuff from around me with human urine. Okay. Can I share a screen?
Yes, you should be able to share screen.
Oh, hold on. It's acting silly. Hold on. Go away.
No problem. And I think chat should be enabled now for y'all if anyone wants to use that. I think I hit the right button.
Okay. No, let's see. Screech. That one. Sure. All right. All right. Do y'all see? What do y'all see?
Okay, yeah, it's there. Predatory mites.
Okay. Excuse me. All right. So this is what spider mites and spider mite damage looks like. The characteristic telltale sign is the webbing. The other thing is the leaf bleaching. You'll notice that the leaf on the bottom right corner, you can see like it's lighter in some spots. If you turn on the underside of that leaf, you'll see the actual spider mites, which you see in this middle picture here. They're really tiny, but they build up to massive numbers. And I've actually got a better picture than this, and I don't know why it's not in this presentation, but I've got to dig through the computer and to find it. But I've had cases where crops that I was growing from one day to the next, I came outside and they were totally red and overwhelmed in spider mites. And I don't try to save the crops or spray anything, and just go and get the tractor and turn all that stuff under and keep it moving. All right, so somebody's asking about industrial hemp or industrial licensed hemp, and how do you keep it disease free? So generally in plants, they acquire diseases when the growing conditions are not suitable for the crop, and they are suitable for the disease. And what you've got to do is figure out what that crop is missing in the soil, or like mineral wise, like if it's missing some sort of micronutrient or trace element, that'll cause it to be more susceptible to disease. If it's got the wrong, I don't know, wind or UV or whatever abiotic condition is out there that is not exactly right for that crop, it'll make it more conducive to disease. Some other things, let's see. Where'd they go? Dr. Henderson is asking, how do you get rid of moles? Moles are a perennial pain in my backside. Like, they're really annoying. I'm planting castor around where my growing spaces, because castor is kind of known to get rid of them or drive them off or poison them or whatever. So it's just that I have to plant a lot of castor to try to drive them off, and I've got other stuff I'm trying to grow. So I know some people have actually put castor oil in their holes. The organic solution is cholecalciferol or vitamin D. For some reason, vitamin D kills rats and moles. So they make baits with those with vitamin D that moles go after. So you can put that down in their holes too. Sandra Solomon's asking about being in East Texas, wanting to grow white sweet potatoes. What are the insect issues I have to contend with? Well, ma'am, you have an enemy out there called Silus formicarius, or the sweet potato weevil. Sweet potato weevils, when there's no sweet potatoes present, they live on morning glory vines. They go out to the morning glories and they lay their babies in there and they reproduce and all that. But once they find a sweet potato, that sweet potato is their favorite thing. And what the weevil does is, once it finds the crown of that plant, it drills a little hole in it, and then it turns around and it lays an egg in that hole, and then it poops on top of the hole. And the poop keeps the ants from eating the eggs. And then the larva, when it hatches, it doesn't want to eat poop. So it knows that's not the right direction. So it drills on into the inside of the sweet potato. This insect is the reason that there is not any more, real commercial sweet potato production in Texas, because this insect moved up from down south and got into our fields and basically wipe them out. And it doesn't kill the vines. What it does is it makes your sweet potatoes unmarketable because now they've got holes in them that are lined with insect frost or insect poop. So now you can't sell that sweet potato. It's unfit for human consumption. And that is a problem that I've been working on for a while. One thing that they did in Africa was they started growing Lantana camara, or what we know as the fruity pebbles lantana that grows all around everywhere with the pink and yellow flowers. They grow that where they want to grow sweet potatoes. And then once that gets big and happy, they mow it and till it under. And then once they till it under, then they plant sweet potatoes. And that is supposed to keep the sweet potato weevils away, or that's what they've done in Africa. So I've never had enough lantana to really recreate that experiment. Excuse me. The other insect that's going to mess with your sweet potatoes are called tortoise beetles. And tortoise beetles, they're a leaf feeder. Mainly, they're going to eat holes in the leaves and, cause a lot of cosmetic damage up top and reduce the photosynthetic quality a bit. But they're more cosmetic than anything. And I say that because sweet potato leaves are also a very useful crop for many people. If you could grow really good sweet potato leaves, you can sell them to certain groups of folks, and they love them. They eat them like spinach. So those are the main insects you're going to deal with. Wireworms might be a little bit of a problem, but honestly, a wireworm is not going to do the amount of damage that the sweet potato weevil larva is going to do. Selena Ngozi asks, what insects eat harlequin bugs? The tiny ones were everywhere, but I'm not seeing them maturing. I hope something is attacking them. They've ravaged my greens in the past. Okay, so, ma'am, unfortunately, when I start seeing harlequin bugs or their little cousins, the bagrata bug, which is a smaller version of the harlequin bug, I kill all the greens because that is my indication that it's time for me to grow something else. I don't try to nurture or take care of or push these greens along. If you've heard my presentations before, you know that I use the analogy of those greens being like your a grandmother. Once those greens have gone through the season, they're older. They're an annual crop. They're only supposed to live for a few months. By the time they get sick, they're like grandmas, and you're not trying to get babies off grandmas, right? Those new leaves, those are babies for this instance. So you don't want to push that plant into its retirement home, still trying to produce for you. So let them bow out gracefully so that you can plant something else. And like I was saying, insects, diseases, they attack weakened plants. And so the weakness in the case of the greens and the harlequins and the bagratas is that they've been pushed past their season. They're moving into a warmer season. That warmer season is not conducive to their growth, so they're stressed. Anytime a plant is stressed, it's calling insects to come and destroy it. That's what the pests are looking for. Those chemical signals from the plants that say that they are suffering. And I compare this to sharks. Sharks in the ocean, they're looking for not the healthy fish. They're looking for the ones that are hurt, the ones that are bleeding, the ones that are emitting stress signals or crying signals out there in the waters. That's what the sharks go for. That's the same concept of what the pests go for in our crops. All right.
Excellent analogy there. I love that.
All right. Well, nice. Thanks.
I
And some
watched
other,
a show
and
last night that was I think it was wildebeest. The same thing, you know, they were trying to cross the water, the river, and the alligator always goes for the weakest one. So love that.
yeah. Well, since I've got this presentation up, I mean, I guess we can go through some other insect problems that folks can have. Um, with these spider mites, most of the control is cultural practices, and that's why I went out and killed all that stuff, because that that stuff staying there is just a source of inoculum for more crops to get affected by the spider mites. So I just took it all out. That's the cultural control. Another cultural control is if you get spider mites in your greenhouse, which is number one by far the biggest place you're going to have problems with spider mites is in a greenhouse, in a hoop house, a high tunnel, whatever, because those are unnatural environments that protect the spider mites from their natural predators and their natural enemy. And just like aphids, the natural enemy of spider mites is rain. So as long as it's raining and it's nice and humid, spider mites can't really do their thing. Spider mites like hot and dry conditions. So being able to control the humidity and the temperature goes very, very far to getting rid of spider mites. Other things that can help are ladybird beetles. And folks, it's not ladybugs. Please don't say ladybugs. After you leave this presentation, don't let me catch you out there in them streets talking about some ladybugs. It is lady beetle or ladybird beetle. We grown folks, okay? We got to say the right nomenclatures for these things. Lady beetles. They eat spider mites. They're not a very big meal for a lady beetle, but they walk around and they eat as many as they can. Then lacewing flies, same thing. Those guys they eat spider mites, and then predatory mites, which they're another mite that's eating the spider mite. And the thing about the predatory mites is you use them in conjunction with the cultural practice. Because where spider mites like it hot and dry, the predatory mites like it cool and moist. So if you turn your greenhouse cooler and add more humidity, it favors the conditions for the predatory mites, and the predatory mites can overwhelm the spider mites. If, however, you take some predatory mites and you put them in a hot, dry greenhouse, they're not going to be able to do their job because they're going to be like you in the summertime at your great grandmother's house when she didn't have an air conditioner out there trying to get cool by fanning yourself somewhere. Same thing with the mites. They're gonna be overheated. They're not gonna want to do anything. Another pest that can affect your crops. Excuse me. Another pest that can affect your crops are thrips, and thrips are really, 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 really tiny. And they have what's called a rasping mouth part. And that's important because it lets you know that you're dealing with a thrip because the leaves turn silver because what the thrips are feeding on is chlorophyll. So if they scrape all the chlorophyll out of the leaf, then what pigment is left to color the leaf? Not a whole lot. So it looks silvery. The other bad thing about thrips is they transmit virus. And some thrips are able to take plant viruses inside them and the virus replicate inside of the thrip, but not infect the thrip. And so once that thrip moves from a healthy plant moves from an unhealthy plant to a healthy plant, it brings that virus over with it. And if you grow things like strawberries or peaches or whatever, you know about a thing called viral load. And viral load is basically your plants get a bunch of different viruses that are not necessarily diseases on the crop, but they are something that the plant's defenses have to contend with. So over the course of a season, you're getting more and more viruses that the plant is dealing with, and your yield is dropping lower and lower. Okay. So that's why it's important to control things like thrips and aphids and all that, things that carry these viruses. The control of thrips, you can monitor them with blue sticky traps. Usually we're monitoring with yellow sticky traps. Things like aphids and whiteflies, they're attracted to the color yellow. For whatever reason, thrips are attracted to blue. So you put a blue sticky card out there and you read the sticky card. The sticky card lets you know how many thrips are in there. And basically, once you get to a certain number, that is your economic threshold where you're going to come in and start treating for the thrips. Now, there are places like Arbico Organics where you can buy predatory mites. One is Amblesius cucumaris, which is a specific type of predatory mite. They run around and they feed on thrips. Amblesius also feeds on fungus gnats. And there's another one called Hypoaspis miles, which they changed the name of it, but I don't remember the new name. But those mites are available at Arbico Organics and any other like Buglogical or any of the biological control dealers. There's a harvest question. What are the signs that sorghum is ready to harvest? It's my third year growing sorghum. First year I waited too long. Last year I had a small harvest due to weather. I only tried to save seeds that year. I haven't really grown a lot of sorghum, but I think there's a certain moisture content that they're looking for. And usually with the grain crops, I think it's 12% that they want the moisture content to be. So you're gonna have to be able to test the moisture. But do email me at JustinD, JUSTIND at NCAT, NCAT or November Charlie Alpha Tango.org, and I can get you a better answer. Another pest that y'all might deal with are scale insects, and scale are cousins to aphids and mealybugs, but they're only mobile as juveniles. So as a juvenile, they run around the plant, they find a place to settle down, they pierce the plant with their mouth, and then they stick there and they turn into a scale. They turn into a little, I don't know if you're familiar with the beach, but they're like a limpet. And they just sit on the plant and eat. There's one type of scale called cochineal, and those grow on opuntia cactus or prickly pear cactus. And they are known for making a red food coloring type thing. So yeah, you could be eating insects if your food has been colored with cochineal. This is one of my favorite things, Bouveria bassiana. It's sold as mycotrol, and it is a bacteria. No, it's a fungus, my fault. It's a fungus that eats insects. And so you put the spores out there and it finds the insects in the soil that are kind of sedentary, the insects that don't move around very fast. You can put it on a scale, you can put it on aphids, you can put it on the aerial parts of plants as well, as long as the insects don't move very fast. As long as those insects are slow, Bouveria can eat it. These are like little wasp cocoons. There's specific types of wasp that parasitize caterpillars. And if you see this out there, don't mess with that. Let that do its job, okay? Because that caterpillar is not going anywhere. There's a little tiny wasp called a trichogramma, and it's an egg parasite for moths and butterflies, and it lays its eggs inside of the eggs of the lepidopterans. They're real tiny, but they do a very big job for us as long as they're allowed to. Now, we talked about harlequin bugs and bagrata bugs earlier, but there are also beneficial, true stink bugs. Now, this happens to be a pentatomide, a stink bug, just like your green stink bug or your brown marmorated stink bug or your harlequin bug. This one is just smarter than them or lazier, depending on how you feel about it. But it still eats plant tissue, but it lets other organisms eat it and digest it before it eats it. So once it finds its prey, it punctures it and it sucks all the juices out of that prey and gets its plant tissue that way. So if you see a brown stink bug with little devil horns on his shoulders, don't mess with him. He's a good guy. There's also some other pentatomide predatory bugs too. And I don't think I have it on this one, but there's anchor bugs, and anchor bugs also do this same thing. And they look similar to harlequin bugs, except for they are like black and white, and their pattern is different than harlequin bugs. You'll know them because harlequins and other pest stink bugs, they're going to be in a big group. There's going to be a bunch of them. When you see an anchor bug or a spine soldier bug or an assassin bug, there's only going to be one. They're not going to be a group of them. If you see a group of true bugs, kill them. They're pests. If you see one at a time, it's likely that it might be a predator. I have troubles with tachinids. Tachinids are a beneficial fly. They're a true fly. Okay? They look just like houseflies, but they are predators of things that annoy us. There is actually a tachinid that eats snails, and I had them when I was greenhouse manager at Prairie View. I would go out in the field and I would find these snail shells with fly pupa in them, and I thought it was odd until I learned what a tachinid was, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool. These are destroying the snails." They also kill caterpillars, so be careful. Not all flies are bad. But for me, if it's in the house and it looks like a fly, I'm killing it. So it's likely that I've killed a bunch of tachinids, but I didn't know. So excuse my ignorance, but if you're in my house buzzing around, I'm killing you. I'm sorry, I can't help it. All right, assassin bugs and wheel bugs. This is a wheel bug, the guy with the little mohawk. He looks like a leaf-footed bug, but he's bigger, and he's got the mohawk on his back. If he doesn't have a mohawk, it's pest. Then you've got the assassin bugs. They can look like squash bugs, but they're assassins. How do you tell the difference between an assassin nymph and a squash bug nymph? The assassin nymph is going to be by himself somewhere, and the squash bug nymph is going to be in a group. I just killed a bunch of them on my melatones. Anyway, these are true bugs, and they like the what was it? The brown soldier bug and the harlequin and not harlequin, the anchor bug. They get their nutrients by eating insects that have already digested the plant materials. And then spiders. These are our friends in the garden, even though some of us may freak out when we walk through a spider web. Well, they're here for a purpose, and their purpose is to eat everything in the garden that's not them. Or they'll eat each other sometimes too, but whatever. They eat pests. So if you favor your garden to provide spaces for spiders to proliferate, like by planting clover. Clover is a good place to plant, a good place for spiders to build up. They like that environment. And then those spiders can leave that clover and go and patrol your vegetables crops and keep them relatively pest free. Another disease, and this one is a bacteria. This is Bacillus thuringiensis, what we call BT. And BT is my friend. I love this stuff. Y'all are all in Texas. If you know a guy named Johnny DeBera down in Brenham, every time I see the dude, I tell him he's got $1 million out on his place because he has a Texas adapted natural BT on his property. Anytime you go out there, all the caterpillars are dissolving. They're like this picture here. They're dissolving away because he's got natural BT out there. I have to buy BT and spread it around and try to nurse it along to keep my my stuff free of squash vine borers. But Johnny DeBera out there in Brenham, Texas, he's got the natural native BT that does wonders. For my last resort.
So Justin, is the BT, is that a fungus?
It's a bacteria. It's bacillus. It's a bacteria.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and so once they eat it, once the insects eat BT, it proliferates in their gut and it eats them from the inside out.
Wow.
All right, so my last resort is always products. I try to keep away from products because I want to raise my crops in such a way that is conducive to the crop and not the pest, not the disease, and not the weed. So I switch. Like if I have no luck with a crop, it's not the right crop for me, and I switch to something else. Anyway, if you're trying to save some stuff and spend a bunch of money and fight Mother Nature, you can use some products like neem because it interferes with insect molting and it also is an anti-fetid. It's very important that you understand once you spray insects with neem, if you get it directly on them, they cannot shed their skin. They cannot grow into their next stage. So what does that mean for us? They can't become adults. If they can't become adults, they can't mate and have babies that are eating your stuff, and they also give predators a longer time to eat them. So neem is very effective in several different ways. Then spinosad. Spinosad is another bacteria. In this case, it's a soil bacteria that they've done their laboratory magic on, and it is a stomach toxin for chewing insects. So if you get things like flea beetles or other chrysomelids like the cucumber beetles or the potato beetles or anything like that, the insects that chew, grasshoppers, stuff like that, anything that chews is going to get that bacteria in them and it's going to kill them. A little stronger and a lot more powerful than those are orange oil. Orange oil is marvelous. Okay, orange oil I say is like napalm. And Gabriel Mosley's asking about those fire ants. That's what the orange oil is for. If you make a drench out of orange oil, you pour it into that fire ant mound, and it will burn them up. And like I say, I compare that to napalm. What they do in Southeast Asia, they dropped napalm, and they said it was for defoliating the forest, the jungle, and all that. But yeah, once it got on people, it caused a lot of issues too, because it burns and it can't come off. So same thing with that orange oil. Once you put that on that ant mound in the right concentration, that's important too, because orange oil at, and I believe it's 20 mLs per gallon. And don't quote me on this. Email me later to get the real thing if I'm wrong. But I do believe it's 20 mLs per gallon. It is a pesticide. It's good against your fire ants, and all your stuff crawling around on your crops you don't want there. But when you make it higher, when you make it either 30 or 40 mLs per gallon, it becomes an herbicide. So now it's wiping out everything. So you have to be careful with orange oil. Then one that's a lot less volatile is diatomaceous earth. Everyone talks about DE. People use it to worm their rabbits and their goats and their sheep and their cattle and all that sort of stuff. But you can also dust your plants with it. And the way diatomaceous earth works is it's like ground glass. And so when an insect crawls over it, and this is effective against fire ants as well, when an insect crawls over it, it cuts all the little leathery joints in between their exoskeleton. You know, the exoskeleton is made out of chitin. It's hard, right? But in between the exoskeleton armor, there's all this little leathery type skin. And once the diatomaceous earth gets into those little spots and the insect moves, it cuts them. And when it cuts them, the insect can no longer maintain its water. So it dries out. It dries them out. Some of the places that you can buy the biological type things are Buglogical, Arbico, Rincon, Vitova, and Keppert Biologicals. And I say biologicals because it is a European company. Let's see. How are we doing on time?
Hey, you got our undivided attention, bro. So you got about another 15 minutes.
Okay. So let me go to the earlier parts of the presentation. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? All right. So here's some of your good guys. Your lady beetles, lady bird beetles, not ladybugs. There's different types, and the different types are attracted to some similar things, but some different things. So this particular one is Coccinella maculata. You find it on cilantro, parsnips, Queen Anne's lace, and other plants in the Apiaceae. So always keep some of these in your garden flowering. Like right now, you can drive up and down the highways and see all the Queen Anne's lace flowering. Those flowers provide nectar and pollen for your beneficial insects. Whenever the beneficial insects aren't eating pests, they're eating nectar and pollen. So it's always good to have some flowers in the garden. This one's Hippodamia convergens. It's also attracted to things in the Apiaceae like dill, fennel, cilantro. It's also attracted to yarrow and lamb's quarters. Another one is Harmonia axaritis. They seek out any plants with aphids or early pollen sources. This one's Coccinella septum punctata. It likes mustard plants, buckwheat, cilantro, vetches, red and crimson clover, and bronze fennel. This is one of the more common lady beetles we see. Now, a lot of people don't realize that the soldier beetles and fireflies, those are also very heavy predators of pests in the garden. They eat, aphids, and they also love like pollen from goldenrod, yarrow, parsnip, Queen Anne's lace, and other fall flowers. Now, this name right here, Cantharidae, I don't know how old y'all are, but I was a child of the 70s, and the older boys were always talking about Spanish fly, Spanish fly, Spanish fly. This is Spanish fly. It comes from an actual insect. It's not a fly, it's a beetle. And it has some weird effects on human beings. All right, so your fireflies, they're very active at night because, how else are you going to see them? They got to light up. They are the night shift. Okay, so lady beetles, they work all day. Then Fred Flintstone horn blows, and the shift changes, and the lady beetles, they go to bed, and the fireflies, they come out. Fireflies only live in areas that are free of chemical pesticides. They are extremely, extremely sensitive to chemicals. So wherever anything has been sprayed, they've been spraying for mosquitoes, no fireflies. Okay? So be careful what you spray, because you don't want your night shift missing. You want somebody eating those aphids all the time, because aphids are born pregnant. Okay, so you need something that's constantly eating them things. All right, so this guy, I mean, he might look a little scary to some people, but this is a carabid beetle, or carabidae, predatory ground beetle. They run around and they look for whatever they can eat. And if you watch them, and if you watch their cousins, the tiger beetles, they run really fast and then they stop. And once they stop, their little brain is trying to catch up with all the things that their eyes saw. So they're running around and they stop and they're thinking, hey, did I see food over there? And they're thinking about it because they've overwhelmed their little brain, and they've got to wonder if they've seen food or not. I'm the same way. I totally understand them, because I move so fast all the time. And sometimes I just have to stop and wonder, did I miss something? Did I forget? Maybe I did. So yeah, I totally understand them. These tiger beetles, they are very active. They fly, they run, they hunt. They are literally the tigers of the insect world. Then damsel bugs, what I call Nabidae, Nabidae, Nabidae. They look like pests because they are true bugs. But unlike their true bug lookalikes, they eat insects. And I like these on my strawberry plants, because once you have some Nabidaes out there, what they do is they post up on the strawberry and they sit there and they wait, because they know something is going to come and try to eat that strawberry. They know it. They know it's coming. So they just wait on the strawberry. And then once that thing comes, these are like a true bug. But if you look at their forearms, they're like a praying mantis almost. So they grab their food item and they hold it and they suck them and kill them. This is a Styratrus ancarago, or an anchor bug. This is the one I was talking about. They kind of have the coloration of a harlequin bug, but if you look, you can tell they're a lot harder, and they have a lot less color to them. They have the characteristic anchor at the back of their scutellum. And a scutellum is just this triangle on the back. All true bugs, and bugs are a particular order of insects. Not all insects are bugs, but all bugs are insects. So all true bugs have a triangular shape on their back called a scutellum. So at the bottom of their scutellum, you see a little anchor. That's where that name comes from. And this is the white form of it. You see there's an anchor right there at the base of that scutellum. Those are good guys. Don't mess with them. I don't see these very often. I think I've seen one in the last 5 years.
Justin, we have real quick, we have a hand up. Selena, I'm going to click you in.
Sorry, that was a mistake. Sorry. I don't have a question.
Okay, no problem.
All right, Selena, don't make me jump through this Zoom call on you. We're talking about
It's a good presentation. You're answering all my questions. So
all right. All right, so here we have the ninja of the insect predators. This is the praying mantis. He is an indiscriminate predator. He eats good guys. He eats bad guys. If you can't escape him, he's going to eat you. And I've seen these obscene videos on YouTube where they had a praying mantis go up against a mouse and the mouse lost. These guys fight and they are in it to win it. So don't mess Don't mess with the praying mantis. And I need to put a picture of their egg case or their ootheca up here so that people know what their egg case looks like. In the fall, they lay this weird egg case, and that egg case keeps their babies safe until the spring, and then the little baby mantids come out and they start wreaking havoc amongst their enemies. All right, I kind of talked about some of this stuff earlier. Aphids, they get in your greenhouse and they are very hard to exterminate because they're born pregnant. And they're protected by ants. And it's easy to kill them, though. I mean, in nature, rain kills them. You know, it's as simple as a raindrop hitting them. And that's the problem with them being in greenhouses, because there's no rain hitting them. And because there's no rain hitting them and breaking their proboscis off, or their mouthpiece that's like a straw, since there's no rain, they just proliferate and proliferate and proliferate. And then if you have ants, then you have a compounded problem, because ants, they herd aphids like we herd cattle. They move aphids from one plant to another. They're like, hey, this would be a better feeding ground for them. Let's go move the aphids over there. They'll pick up the aphid, and the aphid will just kind of sit there, catch a ride, and the ant will take it to new ground to feed on. We can manipulate this or take advantage of this by planting sunflowers in the garden, because an ant will always move aphids onto the sunflowers, and the sunflowers are too big and strong to care about the aphids. This is what they look like. Now, if you look in the upper left, you see this line of aphids. That's great-great-grandma, great-grandma, grandma, the mom, the daughter, the granddaughter, the great-granddaughter, great-great-granddaughter, all lined up because they don't have to move. They're born pregnant. They have their baby. That baby immediately starts to feed, and then that baby has another baby. And then that baby has another baby. And there's just lines and lines of them. If you look in the upper right-hand corner, you can see the beautiful act of aphid birth. I don't know how beautiful it is, but, it might be beautiful to a lady beetle that's sitting there watching this baby aphid come out so that it can eat it. But, it's just a bunch of pests to me. In this middle picture, you can see the ants herding aphids, and they do that because aphids excrete a thing called honeydew. They pee out sugar water. Okay? What ant can refuse some sugar water? Not too many, right? They don't care if it's pee. They're going to drink it. So that's what the reward to ants for herding these aphids is. If you look on the lower left, you see the winged form of the aphids, what we call alates. Once the aphid population size gets to a certain count, the aphids start being born with wings, and they will fly away to a new feeding ground. If you look on the lower right, you see these weird-looking aphids with the arrow on them. Those have been parasitized by a wasp called Aphidyletes. And the Aphidyletes lays its egg inside of aphids, and the aphid becomes a mummy. And the aphid doesn't grow anymore. It just kind of sits there, and the larva of the wasp develops inside of it and then hatches out and then flies away. And these wasps, they're very picky. They will sting to death 300 aphids before they find one that's suitable to lay its egg in. So that's very helpful for us. Now, the only problem I have with these wasps is I cannot wear yellow shirts in the field, because invariably one of these little tiny Aphidyletes wasps will get in my shirt and sting me. And they're a tiny wasp. Think about how small they must be if they're laying eggs inside of aphids. They're tiny, tiny wasps, but they got a full-grown wasp sting. Okay? They pack quite a punch. So no yellow shirts in the field. What are some of the controls? We talked about wasps, syrphid flies, which we also call hover flies, pirate bugs, and then minute pirate bugs, and then big-eyed bugs. Those are true bugs. They love aphids. Then your ladybird beetles and your lacewing flies. This is what all that stuff looks like. So in the upper left-hand corner, you can see the wasp, and she is about to sting one of these fat, juicy aphids, and she might lay an egg in one. Over here in the upper right, you can see a minute pirate bug, and it's another true bug. You see the triangular scutellum right there? See that triangle? It is sucking the life juice out of this aphid. Below the parent wasp in the middle over here is the mummified aphid, where the larva has broken free, and you'll see these little circles on their backs. It's chewed its way out of this aphid to go and complete its life cycle and lay more eggs in more aphids. Over here, and I love syrphid fly maggots because I don't know how much horror movies y'all watched, but when I was little, I watched all those horror movies from the 50s and the 60s. And there was this one where they had this big caterpillar running through, and it would grab people, and it would rear back its head, and it would suck the people down into the caterpillar. It was a giant caterpillar. I don't know what the movie was. I've never been able to find it. But in any case, that's what syrphid fly maggots do. They crawl around on the plants, and they find an aphid, and they spear it, and they rear back their head, and they suck that aphid down into it, and it's a marvelous thing. And it's one of the most beautiful things I've seen in nature. Down on the lower left, you can see the lady beetle larva, and on the right you can see the adult ladybird beetle. I wish y'all could throw a poll up right quick and get a vote of who eats more, the adult or the larva. Can y'all do that? Is that something y'all can do off the cuff, or?
Yeah, he's putting you to the test, Uche. What you got?
Give me 1 second.
The question is, which eats more, the adult or the larva? See, if we were in a class in person, Phil, we could just ask this and everybody could raise their hand and we could get like instant results.
Yeah, so the inside joke is that, and actually we could use the chat, y'all, too. But Justin hates these virtual events. He's more of a in-person demo, so as you can see, so he's I had to do some arm twisting to get him on for today, but we'll do some more events in person because that is definitely his cup of tea. So we'll make that happen, Justin.
All right, man. Y'all got to get me out in the field where the magic happens.
Justin, can you repeat the question again? Which eats more?
All right. Which eats more aphids, the adult or the larva? I'm sorry I'm taking this break to do this, but it's a very important point. So I've got to ask this question and get everybody's response because I've got to illustrate a point. So far, everyone is pretty much chiming in that it's the larva. All right. One person said it's the adult. And that's is it Daedra or Deidra or Deidra? I've heard it pronounced all sorts of ways. All right, we got another for adult. Now y'all can't be Googling now. It's Deidre? Okay, thank you. All right. That's enough. That's enough time. Oh, there it is. There's the poll. 71% said the larva. 29 said the adult. Now let's think about this. What job does a larva have to do? What's his one job? To grow, right? That's all it's got to do. It's got to walk around and eat and grow. Just like a baby. They eat and they poop and they cry a little bit. However, that adult, they not only have to walk around and eat to keep themselves alive, but they also have to go and hunt. They have got to fly around and find food. They've got, they're riding around like the soccer mom looking for a grocery store. They're looking for the best place to lay their eggs. They've got to lay the healthiest eggs they can lay. So they have to take in more nutrients than the larva. And I make this point because the thing that the adult eats when it is not eating pests is it's eating flowers. Well, not really eating the flowers. It's eating the pollen and nectar from these flowers. So that's why it's so important whenever you have a garden, whenever you have a farm, wherever you're growing, to have some flowers growing out there enough to where your predators and your parasites and your predators and parasitoids, they can feed on these things when they don't have prey to feed on, so that they can get big and strong, so they can have healthy babies that can eat up your stuff, your pests. So it's the adult lady beetle that eats more. All right. Let's see. Lace wings, there's two different types. There's brown and there's green. The brown one, brown adult, this one you can see is eating spider mites. That's a spider mite infestation on that leaf. It's walking around eating that stuff. Don't mistake these for adult termites, because adult termites look exactly the same to the untrained eye. The difference comes in whenever you see adult termite or winged termites, there's always going to be a male following a female. That female is going to be walking somewhere, and that male is going to be right behind her, walking very, very closely, like they're trained. That's how you know it's not a lacewing. A lacewing is just going to be kind of on the leaf, walking around eating or flying around your lights at night. I really don't see a lot of brown lacewings. I see a lot of green lacewings, however. And if I find them, like, I don't know, in a puddle or, where they can't get somewhere they can't get out of, I always gently get them and take them outside somewhere or get them out of the water. Their larvae look very similar. And if you look closely at their larvae, they have very large mandibular or jaws. Those jaws have a horrific bite. One bit me out in the cotton fields when I was in grad school. And the way their jaws work is they're hollow and they're filled with glands that push their digestive juices into whatever they bite. So if this thing bites you, it injects you with stuff that's breaking down your flesh. It is very, 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 and I can't pronounce it enough. It is very painful. but they look like these little alligator things, and they walk around your plants and they eat stuff. These are their eggs in the upper right. That's their telltale sign. It's always a little string with an egg on the end of it. Those are your friends. Leave those alone. Don't freak out when you see that. White flies, they have immobile larval forms. So just like their cousins, the scale insects, they kind of sit there and feed on the plant. And once they become an adult, they hatch out of their skin and they turn into these little irritating white flies that get everywhere. They increase exponentially. And when they mow the cotton fields or harvest the cotton fields in South Texas, you can see clouds of white flies moving around. Their controls are a little tiny lady beetle called a Delphastus. It's a little black lady beetle with a red head. It and its larva both eat white flies. And then there's a little wasp called Encarsia, and it's a parasitoid of these things. It lays its eggs. And let me back up for a second. There's three types of ways to eat pests. There are predators, like with your ladybird beetles or your soldier bugs or your praying mantis. They directly ingest their prey. Then you have parasites. Parasites live on the inside of the prey. They don't kill the prey. They can end up killing the prey, but for the most part, they don't kill the prey. They multiply inside the prey and weaken it to where it can't breed, it can't do a lot of stuff. And then there's parasitoids, which is a combination of the two. Parasitoid lays its egg inside of the prey item, and their larva develops inside of it and then goes away. So 3 classes of eating your pests. Encarsia is a parasitoid. It lays its egg inside of the white flies, and that larva eats the white fly larva from the inside out. Then fungus gnats. Everybody always asks about fungus gnats because fungus gnats are not only pests of agricultural production, they are house pests. Because if they get in your plant that you've got in your house that looks so good, if there's any sort of fungus in there for them to feed on, now you've got fungus gnats, and the fungus gnats spread fungus everywhere. And then they eat the roots. Once they run out of fungus, they eat the roots. They eat cuttings. They eat seedlings. They're just awful. And they are super pesky when it's too wet. The larvae damage germinating seedlings, seeds, cuttings, all that sort of stuff. Some of their controls, one is a predatory mite called Hypoaspis miles. And I had fun with this. I did an experiment for my host plant resistance class in grad school, where we had to use a biological control to fix a problem. And my problem was fungus gnats, and I used Hypoaspis miles and nematodes. Hey, stop that. To fix the problem. The Hypoaspis miles are a direct predator of the larva of the fungus gnats, and the nematodes, they are a pathogen that gets inside of the fungus gnat larva and reproduces in there and bursts the larva open to make more nematodes all over the place. Then mealybugs. And mealybugs, they're also farmed by ants if they're mealiness, and you could see all their gross nastiness that they live inside of on this picture to the left. If they're not inside that, they're protected by ants because ants benefit from their honeydew as well. And then this is a two-tailed mealybug. They're bad. And then you've got soil mealybugs or root mealybugs. They get into the roots of plants, and you can pull up certain plants and they'll be full of mealybugs. You wonder, at the top, it looks like your plant is getting sick, and you don't know why until you pull it up and you see mealybugs all over the roots. Some of its controls are the mealybug destroyers, or Cryptolemus montreusi. This one looks kind of like a mealybug. So if you look at this picture on the lower left, you see mealybug, 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 and then you see this thing. That is the larva of the Cryptolemus, and it kind of resembles a mealybug to us, but not to ants, because ants will attack that larva. And then the adult is another black ladybird beetle with a red head. And then there's many different types of parasitoids that affect mealybugs. In fact, usually a parasitoid of aphids or of whiteflies or of mealybugs, all of those insects are related. So you can kind of train one to affect the others because they have no choice. You know, if you release them, they need something to eat. And we've gone full circle back to spider mites, and I've been told I've only got a minute left. So if there are any quick questions, y'all hit them up. If not, email me. My email is in the chat or something somewhere they posted it. I saw. Any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints? If y'all have complaints, get them off your chest now. Don't call Butte, Montana, talking about Justin hurt my feelings.
Hey, Justin, that was amazing. You mentioned sunflowers. You said you should always have sunflowers in your yard because they attract aphids. Any other particular flowers that you should have in your yard?
Yarrow. Yarrow is a good one. And then with the others, it really doesn't matter. As long as you got some flowers, as long as you have some flowers going on at all times, you should be good.
All right. I think there's a question in regards to, it looks like it says, are there any master classes that Texas Small Farmers and Ranchers offering? We're actually putting together a roster of topics that are kind of pretty much related to the program that we discussed a few weeks back, the local food purchase program. And the good news is Justin is a part of that partnership. So we won't lose them, although I have to come up with some more insight demonstrations, which is fine. That's what we need to do anyway. So we'll put some of those together. But yes, we are developing some master classes. You have Uriah Israel here, who's putting together some for the gardening piece. We're also putting together some programs for soil, for agribusiness as well. So we're going to run a few different tracks, as well as working with USDA and the what's and whys behind that, and why you number one should consider working with USDA and what some of those benefits are. So excellent question there, and all I can say is keep reading your newsletter and keep joining us on these calls, and we'll get that information out to you. We should be kicking off some of those classes within the next month or so. Let's see what else we got here. Will there be a recording? Yes, there will. If you're like me, some of this information, some of this terminology can go a little bit over your head. Good news is I'm a soil biologist, so I'm catching a lot of this stuff. I'm glad to hear references to, bacteria and, fungi, and even I saw some nematodes in there. I don't know if you slipped some protozoa in there or not, but
the protozoa are the those are the parasites.
Okay, there we go.
So like with grasshopper, there's a parasite called nosema, and you can actually buy bait for grasshoppers that have nosema. Nosema, a different species of nosema, also attacks honeybees.
Wow,
it's different. It's not the same one as with the grasshoppers, but you got to watch out for that stuff.
So there you go. There's a whole lot going on in our garden. This was perfect. As I mentioned, there's a recording that goes out. I do encourage you not only to rewatch this, don't get too caught up in the terminology of things, just listen to, really it's important to understand, what is in your garden and refer back to it and just create that awareness. Because I know a lot of times we're killing off stuff that may be what we call beneficials. And maybe we're keeping stuff there that we thought was beneficials that's actually hurting our garden. So I do encourage everyone to mark this in your favorites once you get that recording, because you are going to need to reference back to it. I know I am. So thank you so much, Justin. Just some priceless information here. Anything to add to that, Uriah?
No, sir. Absolutely amazing presentation. I can't wait to listen to the recording and just to look up a lot of information that he shared. Thank you so much, Justin.
All right, well,
All
thanks
right.
for having me. I enjoy being able to talk about plants and insects to folks because that's how I get my math science on.
Oh yeah. You didn't go too mad science on us today, man, on the terminology. So thanks for being easy on us, man. But that was great stuff, great information there. We're going to get close to wrapping things up. Do want to mention once again the local food program that we have. If you're on here and you have not seen that presentation, let me see if I can put it in the chat.
There's a question on the floor
Okay.
about honeybees, wondering about parasites. What should I be aware of that may attack honeybees besides mites? Most of what attacks the bees are unfortunately mites, but there's a bunch of diseases out there as well. Email me, this is Dr. I saw your name earlier. But yeah, email me and I can get with you because I teach beekeeping. So like right now I've got two mentees that I'm teaching beekeeping classes to.
That'll be one of our classes, man. We're going to do that one. Beekeeping, if you don't mind, we'll do that one on site.
We're doing that live?
Yeah, we'll do one live. I'll get with you and we'll get that on the calendar.
You're gonna provide everyone with bee suits?
Oh no.
Yeah.
So maybe not. Maybe
They need to have a bee suit to come to that class because if I'm teaching beekeeping, I'm teaching it right. And we going in a hive and we playing around and we looking for everything.
Okay, well, we'll talk that one through.
Okay.
All right. I spoke too soon on that. All right. So anyway, we're going to wrap it up, y'all. I put the local food purchases program in there. I do encourage you to watch that for yourselves. And also, if it's of interest to you, just reach out to us. I'll have Uche, if you have it up there, if you could put our contact info in, and please pass that to just the email address, I should say. And please pass that on to friends and family who may be interested. Also, I do want to mention if you are a gardener in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, I do encourage you to look into becoming a vendor at the Fort Oak Cliff Farmers Market. We are a partner with them on that. That is a farmers market that's in the making. It's for us, by us. And we do encourage you, even if you're not a vendor, just to really support that. That project is we started last year, starting back up in spring here on May 6th, Saturday, May 6th. It goes from 1 to 9, and that is it's every other Saturday. So do encourage you to support that any way possible. Also, if you're a cattle or pig producer, and interested in getting $5 a pound per pound on your meat you sell, whether you go through a processor, and we can deduct actually some of those processing fees, so you're not coming out of pocket for it. Reach out to me if that's something you're interested in. We'll put our email address on there as well. And also, if you're looking to sell, you've got meat or you've got cattle or hogs that you're looking to sell, and even poultry, we can probably find a place for it. Reach out to us, and you may even get even more than $5 a pound if you're selling through some of our CSA contacts. But just keep in mind, depending on your area, we may have to find some cold storage for you. So,
Hey, hey Phil, I put my Facebook in the chat. Can you reshare it to everyone, because it says it only went to hosts and panelists.
Okay. All right. We'll have Uche, if you don't mind just cutting and pasting that for us, that'd be great. Trying to see if I can find it. Okay, we'll get that out. We'll make sure that gets out to y'all. If it doesn't show up in the chat, we'll make sure that gets in with the recording, along with some of these things I'm sharing with you. What else was I going to share? Like I said, in our upcoming weeks, we will be rolling out workshops, and it's going to be focused in 3 areas: basics of soil, growing crops, vegetables. We're also going to be talking about wealth creation and business basics, and also accessing, government resources as well. So keep that in mind. And as we end up, another special thanks to every one of you who are on here today, joining us. Really, truly appreciate you guys hanging in there and getting these valuable nuggets, and keep clicking on the play button every time we send out these Zoom meetings. Justin, Duncan, man, you come as advertised, bro. So appreciate you. Appreciate these nuggets that you share with us. Uriah, Uche, the rest of our Texas Farmers and Ranchers CBO team who's working behind the scenes, thank you so much. And as I always say, remember, be the exception. Take care.
All right, y'all. See y'all later.